Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookham here, and today I bring you the next recent interview with three-time Mr. Olympia Frank Zane. In this 70-minute interview, which follows from the first interview which I did last year with Frank, we discuss his arrival at California and meeting Arnold, and the subsequent friendship he developed with Arnold, training at Gold's Gym, and soaking up the California sun whilst preparing for the Mr. Universe competitions. Training, nutrition, and the golden years of bodybuilding is what this interview is all about. So grab your post-workout shake and enjoy this interview with the great Frank Zane. So, hi, Frank. It's a real privilege again to be able to interview you. And I think last time we spoke, we focused on the foundation to your physique, which I think, it still stands to this day as one of the greatest aesthetic physiques that's ever graced the bodybuilding stage. So, yeah, it's a great privilege to be able to interview you again.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think pretty well. Right. So today I'd like to focus more on your years in California, because we spoke a lot about, what got you into bodybuilding and those early days. Today I'd like to now focus more on actually your years in California, training at Gold's Gym with Arnold, and your experiences competing in the first universes that you competed in. I don't know whether I'll have time to get into the Olympias, but I guess we'll just see.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. Great. The screen's kind of freezed. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So my first question is, what was your first impression of Arnold when you first met him? Assuming, of course, that you first met him in I think it was the 1968 IFBB Mr. Universe comp.
Yes. I thought he was big, white, without a tan, and smooth.
Right.
And I wasn't that impressed. Besides, a friend of mine at the time, Jim Hazlip, who still lives in Tampa, he competed in the NABBA universe, and he came back and he said, "Don't worry about Arnold." He says he's really smooth. So I was more concerned about Ricky Wayne, who was in shape all the time, but he wasn't competing. So Arnold was there, and Vic Downs was another guy from Canada who was in shape. I think he came second. But
Okay.
Arnold was just not ready for the show. I mean, he wasn't in shape. He got in shape after that. But for that show, he wasn't.
Yeah.
Of course, he's not used to losing. So he wrote an article for Weeder. It said, "I lost Mr. Universe to a chicken with 17-inch arms." And my reply to that is, at least this chicken was very muscular and you weren't. So, no cuts at all. None.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I remember reading. Like, and I've seen some photos actually. He looks very puffy, is a good word to put it.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
When he came to California, not long after he showed up here, we were having breakfast at Denny's or someplace like that. And I said, "Arnold, what's the secret of nutrition?" And he said, "It doesn't matter what you eat, just so you eat a lot of it." I was thinking, that's not going to work for me. So I never took him serious about diet.
Right. And was he like that? Did he just eat whatever he wanted to eat?
He did pretty much all the time, except before the contest, usually in the summer on a diet. But before that, he never dieted.
Right. Okay. I mean, he talks a lot about, just like a lot of other people talk about, the high protein, high fat diet back then. Would you say he followed it strictly throughout the whole year, or just he would eat potatoes, bread, rice, whatever, carbs with his meat?
He pretty much ate whatever he wanted to all year. And then in the summer, he went on a diet and cut his carbs down substantially. I remember the one year he was in good shape in May, and I was thinking, well, should do well this year. He's already in pretty good shape. But normally he wasn't.
Mm.
Then he'd train real hard and diet real hard last couple of months, and he'd be ready.
Right.
Then the minute the contest was over, he was back eating pie. He
Yeah,
loved pies.
I've read stories about that. Um, did you actually get to talk to Arnold during that first meeting at the 1968 Mr. Universe? Did you actually have a conversation with him?
Not much because he didn't speak much English. One of the things who was there? My wife was there, and he was sort of looking at her a lot. And I said, "Don't worry, Arnold. There's a lot of pretty girls in California, and you'll find out soon enough."
Yeah, right. Okay, so you met Arnold and you won that IFBB 1968 Mr. Universe. Is that when Joe Weider flew you in to California? Or no, he flew Arnold into California. Is that when he offered the contract to Arnold?
I think so. That was it. I mean, I was living in Florida at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I had set up to have dinner with those guys. They were going to come to my place we're in St. Petersburg, but they never showed up. And so I wrote him and I said, "Hey, Joe, what's going on? I had dinner here for everybody, and you never showed up. You just flew with Arnold to California." And so he was nice after that. He made amends. And then he flew me to California too. It was in May. I was still teaching school at the time. And I stayed a week in California. Bunked with Arnold. He had an apartment in Santa Monica. And I bunked with him. I had a cot in his living room. I slept there. And it was great. We worked out twice a day, went to the beach, came back to his place, did laundry, washed all our sweat clothes, then went back to the gym in the afternoon. And I was thinking, well, this is the lifestyle for me. I would like to do this too. So I pitched Joe Weider, and he said, "Oh, no, we don't have a budget for that, hey." And so I came to California. I began teaching school. And I taught school in Venice for 8 years before I retired. And what was it? I was teaching school. One of the reasons I was a math teacher, so I couldn't get drafted. I was eligible for the draft. I didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally in 1977, I wasn't eligible anymore because it was, 8 years I was teaching. So at that time, I retired from teaching school and just beefed up my mail order courses and lived as a professional bodybuilder. And I really liked it. I mean, that's when my training really took off.
Mm. Yeah. So yeah, you said that Joe never offered you a contract, but he just offered you a plane ticket to California. That's all.
Yeah, well, that was for taking photos
Mm-hmm.
with Artie Zeller. And of course, when I went out there, I checked in the teaching situation and went to Los Angeles City Schools, and they had 70 vacancies for math teachers. So I took the one close to home in Venice, and that set me up for living in California.
Yeah, great.
But that's what I had to do. I had to teach school there living because, Weider had just moved to California too. And he wasn't offering scholarships for anybody except Arnold. That was the deal.
Right. So he only offered a contract to Arnold, even though he lost the universe to you.
Yeah, because he
Ironic.
saw Arnold's potential.
Yeah.
I remember standing on stage and he's holding my hand up as the winner. And he said, "Oh, Frank, what do you think about Arnold? Isn't he great what potential he has? I'm going to fly him to California and build him up and make him into a real champion." I said, "Hey, Joe, I just beat him for Mr. Universe. What about me?" And that was it. That was
Exactly.
where his leanings were. So I figured, well, I'm going to have to do all of this on my own. No help for him. So I wrote articles for the magazine and got paid for those and got free advertising too. I got an ad in the magazine and things went all right between teaching and the salary from that and making money from mail order. This was okay.
Um, so he flew you out to mainly get some photos of you and Arnold together. Is that it?
Well, you know, stuff on the beach, uh, me, Arnold, and Dave Draper, and models that he had hired, and his wife Betty,
Hmm.
and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah. I imagine, like, I can just picture all the images from the muscle mags, like all those classic nostalgic photos of the four of you on the beach running on the sand. Is that what?
Yeah, yeah, that's from that time.
Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so in your biography and book, Zane, the Zane Bodybuilding Manual, you mentioned that when you moved to California, and you just mentioned that as well, that you and Arnold started, you bunked with Arnold and you became good friends. You started training together. Can you describe like a typical training week with Arnold, or yeah, I mean, what a typical training week with Arnold would have been like?
Well, we trained 6 days a week, and I had an apartment a couple blocks away from his, and he'd come over and I'd ride to the gym with him in his Volkswagen, which is what he was driving at the time. Joe gave him an apartment for 150 bucks a month. Uh, or no, that was his salary, 150 a month, and a box of Weeder supplements, which he sold because he took real Blair supplements at the time. They were the best, and I took them too. They were the best around, so we all took those.
Right,
And 150 bucks a week, and the Volkswagen, and his apartment paid. And that's how we started in California.
right. So
And of
did
course, he
Joe?
wanted to be in the movies, so he started going out for parts. And I could think he got a few things, and then he gradually kept doing that and got better at it, got better roles.
Mm. So you said you trained with him 6 days a week. What was like the training like? Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc.
Well, on Monday and Thursday, we worked chest and back.
Right.
And we would go back to the gym in the afternoon and generally do abs or, another body part. On Tuesday and Friday, we worked legs. You
Hmm.
know, sometimes we came back in the afternoon if we needed to. And then on Wednesday and Saturday, we worked delts and arms. And it
Cool.
just kept going like that. And I made great progress. But it was a bit of overtraining for me because I was doing other stuff too. I was teaching in the fall. And of course, I couldn't do that. I was teaching from 8 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. Then I started going to Gold's Gym on my own
Hmm.
because the facility was really good. I really liked it.
Yeah. By going on your own, what do you mean by that? You stopped training with Arnold?
Yeah,
Okay.
just in that summer '69, I did. But then I started teaching school in September, and so, you know, uh, I couldn't train. I could train either 6 or 7 in the morning, or 3:30 in the afternoon. So I just trained in the afternoon on my own. I'm
Right.
used to training on my own anyway. I don't really need anybody. But he was a great training partner. He was very focused. He did 10 reps on everything, and that last rep was really his last rep. And he got a tremendous pump.
Oh,
And he said what motivated him was basically when he was training, he'd see it was sunny outside, and he wanted to finish his routine so he could go to the beach. That's his main motivation.
awesome. Um, so you both trained at Gold's Gym, but I've heard a lot of stories of Gold's Gym and Arnold, and about the bodybuilders. They all talk about Arnold being a prankster at the gym and out of the gym. Would you say that's really what happened with Arnold? He was just pranking people all the time.
He liked doing that whenever he could. He would do it. I remember one time this guy came in off the street, sort of like like a bum type figure, and he came in, and Arnold just put him on and told him how good he looked and how strong he must be, and he led him over to the bench press, and the guy I said, well, let's put the 225 on there. And I says, that's nothing for you. So he put it on and lifted it off of the guy, and the weight sank down to his chest, and Arnold just walked away and left him there. He was screaming.
So But what I find amazing is that like with these stories, Arnold obviously his English wasn't very good, but he already had this self confidence. Is that it? That
Well,
like
he was okay. He learned, he picked it up fast, you know, and he already knew some English, of course, but he picked it up fast when he got to California.
oh,
And actually, his girlfriend was an English teacher, Barbara, and she
right,
taught him English. He really liked that, and she corrected him all the time, and he encouraged that. So that's how he picked it up.
right.
Then he started going to Santa Monica City College, and I tutored him in math because he didn't know any math, you know. So I helped him out. I'd go over there and show him how to do, you know, solve binomial equations and all that stuff. And he got a C in the course, passed, you know, and then he went on to a college and graduated.
Hmm.
But he got the math out of the way because I helped him. I
Awesome.
remember I helped him in math on the condition that he would give a posing exhibition at the junior high school where I taught. So he did. He came over and did the posing exhibition. Of course, he wasn't, you know, it was smooth, but for the uh, to the viewer who didn't know the difference that much, he was big, you know. They really liked it.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, so you were training initially with Arnold at Gold's Gym when you just arrived. Um, do you remember your first time at Gold's Gym? Do you actually remember that?
Not clearly. I just remember paying Joe Gold. At first, you know, I paid him $60 a year, which was the membership, and I didn't mind
Right.
doing that. I expected to. And then after I won a few titles, he didn't want me to pay at all. I was on
Right.
the privilege list. But I really loved training there because it was a great environment. You know, just a really really good gym with great equipment that Joe built. And I've
Mm,
never trained a place like that before. And I was really enthused about the whole thing.
bad. I've seen photos of Joe Gold building that building the equipment in the gym and the gym itself. It's pretty awesome. Just seeing
He
that
opened
stuff.
it in 1965,
Yeah.
and they built the building. Zabo Kazuski, also known as, we called him the Chief. The Chief helped them build it. You know,
Right.
built cinder block design, and he worked there. And the Chief did 500 leg raises every morning and 500 Roman chair sit-ups every afternoon. And so when I saw him doing all of that work, I did it too. I got really good abs from doing that. One day
Yeah.
I did Roman chair sit-ups for 2.5 hours without stopping, just to see if I could do it. And I could do it. It's just a matter of applying yourself. Well, I did it a couple days in a row. First day was like, I was thinking, if I could do this for half an hour, and I did. Next day I said, well, how about it? I'll try an hour. And I did the hour. My back was a little sore from it, but then it went an hour and a half, 2 hours, then finally 2.5 hours I did nonstop. And I figured, I could probably just keep going, so I stopped.
Yeah. I find that really amazing. How is it that you didn't cramp up? Like, because if I ever do like 10 minutes of abs or something, I'm already cramping up. So how is it
I
that you
was in
guys
shape.
do? You know.
I was already in shape. You know, I always did a lot of ab work, and so I just gradually picked it up. And, you know, I did my lower back did get a little sore from that, but you know, I was able to do it.
Amazing. And you mentioned that you learned that from Zabo Kazevsky,
Yeah.
or at least got that idea from him.
Yep.
And he was training at Gold's Gym as well.
Yeah, he was already like in his 40s. And, you
Mm.
know, for me, somebody who was in their 40s and looked in shape like those guys did. Also, Charlie Colleras was there. And I saw him at 40, and the guy looked amazing. I never saw anybody who was 40 years old look like that. He only weighed about 150, but he was ripped. I was thinking, wow, I'm going to look like that when I'm 40. And of course I did, you know. But these guys are great role models. You know, I never saw anybody look like that and so serious about their training and just had everything going on. And Santa Monica, Venice area was the perfect place for it. There were great facilities, great weather, beaches, gyms. So nothing stopped me. I didn't accept that I had to work for a living, but I was a math teacher and that was easy for me. It wasn't that much preparation. It was junior high school. I even went to graduate school at the same time.
All right.
I earned my California Life teaching credential going up to school part-time. And
Great.
then after that, it wasn't until we moved to Palm Springs much later on that I got a master's degree in psychology going to Cal State San Bernardino. So I got my lifetime teaching credential, and then I got master's degree, and I got more money from teaching. But it still wasn't a lot of money. I think the most money I ever made teaching school my last year was $20,000 a year.
Mm.
But you know, if you're a teacher, I say, well, 20,000. You know, when I started teaching my first year in Pennsylvania, I made 4,500 a year.
Mm.
It was barely enough to buy food, and
Yeah.
I was living in a place for relatively cheap, not much money at all. But you know, that was the life of a teacher in those days. You were in it because you loved it. You loved it. Don't expect to get paid very much, but because you love it. I don't love it that much, you know, but it's keeping me out of the military, and I have the summers free to train. That's what I love.
Mm. Yeah.
But I stuck with it as long as I had to, and then, you know, the time came, I retired, got book deal with Simon and Schuster, and had mail order, and then beefed up my mail order, and just lived the life of a professional bodybuilder, sending out courses and, you know, doing book signings and traveling around, and it was great.
Mm.
Living in Santa Monica, we had.
Um,
Like you froze up. Yeah, you are. Yeah.
yeah. Just for a moment. So you arrived there in 1969, and you start training with Arnold. You're obviously there before Franco and all the other guys were there, all the guys from Pumping Iron, because that's what most of us think. I mean, us fans that think about Gold's Gym, that's pretty much the only footage that exists. Beyond that, we have to think about the photos that exist. So besides yourself, Arnold, Zabo, Chuck Colress, I know Dave Draper was also training there. Who else was there at that time? Who were the originals at Gold's Gym? I guess that's my question.
Well, in August, people came from all over to, you know, guys from Europe, bodybuilders who come to train, because that was, you know, a month or so before the competitions. I remember Mike Katz showed up to train there. Ed Corney trained with Arnold there one of the years. I think it was 1975.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I trained off and on with him. I think 69, 70. We trained together for the NABI universe.
Mm-hmm.
71, I was in South Africa for the summer, and I got really good training there. And so I didn't train. I was there the whole for 3 months. Then I went to NABI universe, competed in the pro division because I'd already won the amateur. And Bill Pearl showed up, you know, big, tanned, dark tan, smooth. I didn't see any cuts in his back at all. No cuts in his thighs at all. Good poser, you know, but he was a favorite in London, favorite.
Mm.
And so he won it. You know, nice presentation, but you know, by modern standards, he didn't have it. And I think, you know, I think when he looked good was in 1980. He trained to go to Munich, Germany for Albert Busek. He was pretty good that year. He was better than he did the NABI universe. Of course, it was later.
Yeah.
71 when he won that.
Mm.
And I really wanted to win that NABI. I wasn't a trophy collector, but the 1970, they had beautiful trophies. They were sterling silver. And I won one in 1970. I said, I want another one of these. So in 71, Pearl won the contest, and I didn't win it. I didn't win the trophy. And 72, I won. But at that time, they were giving out what I call tinsel trophies that look good in photos because they're big, but they're just tin, you know, not quality like before. So I never won the second one.
Right.
So then I had to win 3 Olympias to get, an outstanding trophy. So I have those are my 3 trophies that I save is the Navy Universe from 70, and then the 3 Olympias from 77, 78, 79. The Sandow trophies.
They're awesome. um, so I did ask about the originals at Gold's Gym. You've talked about Zabo Kozevsky and Chuck Colress. But what was Dave Draper like? Because I have tried to interview him a few times. And I mean, did he ever train with you and Arnold together? Or
I trained with Dave.
Yeah.
I said, Dave, what's your routine? He says, I don't have a routine. That way I can't do it wrong. That's his philosophy. And he just did whatever he felt like doing. He'd come into the gym around 6 o'clock, no shoes, torn up jeans, and just did whatever he needed to do. He was pretty strong. I remember I worked shoulders with him one time. We did a tricep, 3 exercises in a row. We did dumbbell presses, 10 reps with 90s. I was pretty strong then too. Slide lateral raises with 50s, and then barbell upright row with like 120. And we did it nonstop. We did like 5 triceps like that.
And that was that.
I think that was in 72.
Wow.
1972.
And then he kind of just disappeared from the scene, didn't he? Dave Draper.
He moved to Santa Cruz after shortly there. I don't know when exactly he did, but he was still around in 76, I think. I trained with him a little bit then.
All right.
Then after that, he moved to Santa Cruz. He opened up a gym up there, World Gym Santa Cruz. I went up there and did a seminar for him right around that time, 77, I think it was. And Dave's a nice guy. He's very, very polite and sort of shy, excellent writer. He's pretty smart.
Yeah.
He just writes really well. I mean, I wonder where he gets his metaphors. I told him, I said, Dave, do you have a book of metaphors or something? You get all these sayings?
Yeah, I've got a lot of his books. He's an excellent writer, I have to agree.
Talented, yeah. Talented in that respect.
All right. Back with training with Arnold. So when you first started training with him, did you both use the straight set system or something like a pyramid system? How was your training like? Or was it supersetting?
Well, we made supersets sometimes, but basically it was single sets, working up in weight every set. We'd shoot for 10 reps.
All right. Okay.
And I remember one time we were squatting. This is 72. We were squatting, me and Arnold. And we worked up in weight. We started with 135 and 135 for 10, 185 for 10, 225 for 10, 275 for 10, 315 for 10, 365 for 10, and then 405 for 10. And I like to brag about this because Arnold did 8 reps and I did 10. Because I was a good squatter. I was a better squatter than him because, my legs are shorter. He doesn't have a great advantage because of his bone structure for squatting, but he trained heavy anyway. A lot of some forward bending in the squat. That's why he had a thick, muscular lower back. Of course, I did too, but that's where his strength came from. Was that? I remember him doing bent over row, standing on a bench with 315, with a wide grip on the Olympic bar, 315. Franco had a strong back too. Both those guys had really strong backs.
Yeah. Crazy. So you're talking about squatting right now. What's your opinion on the back squat? Like, I mean, at the time, Vince Gironda was talking, badly about the back squat, that it builds your hips and your buttocks and not really your thighs. Obviously you did heavy back squatting throughout your whole career. So what's your opinion on that?
Well, it worked. I mean, my thighs got up to maybe 27 and a half from doing regular squats. You know, Vince never had he didn't have a squat rack in his gym. I liked his gym, but it was nice dumbbells and everything, but he really didn't have any leg equipment there. He had one of the old time leg curl, leg extension combos, and nothing for legs really. You know, everybody that came out of the gym, none of those guys had great legs. Larry Scott didn't have great legs. Don Howard didn't have great legs. They had great upper bodies, you know.
True.
So, you know, that's why I didn't continue. I trained there for about I don't know, about 4 or 5 weeks in 1975. They're filming Pumping Iron in Gold's Gym, and I said, "Boy, this is a madhouse. I can't train here." It's all about Arnold anyway. I said to him, "Why don't you just call it Pumping Arnold? You know, it's all about him. It's not about bodybuilding history or anything like that. It's just about Arnold, glorifying him. So go ahead. I'm out of here." So I went to Vince's. And it was like a 20-mile drive each way, but you know, I had good training there. I didn't really reach my best peak that year in 1975. I went to IFBB Mr. Olympia in South Africa. Ridge Park sponsored it, and I really wasn't in that great a shape. I was actually embarrassed by it. I was so embarrassed when I saw it on TV that I trained incredibly hard for 76 and came in the best shape of my life. I trained so hard.
So you actually competed in the 75 Olympia.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
I think Albert Beckles beat me too. That's how good I was. And Franco Colombo was in there. He didn't do so well. He wasn't in great shape either. He says, "Next year, I get them all by the neck." Well, he did better. He beat me in 76 for the Olympia. I was in great shape that year. But, you know, he was the typical Franco, you know, thick back, great lats, striated pecs, you know, good deltoids, short arms. Arms weren't spectacular, but they're okay. Legs, and his abs were good. Legs, he's sort of bow-legged, and not much cuts in his thighs, and he had good calves. So, you know, he wasn't my ideal physique. And I always thought, you know, I have pictures of me and him posing side by side, and I think I look way better than him. But I wasn't big, you know, I was about 180 pounds. And I had everything was developed, but I just wasn't that big. Whereas he had some size.
Yeah.
And he had friends who were judges. That
That's
helps.
true.
That helps.
Absolutely.
Also, the publicity helps.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in the magazine all the time and people see your picture, good pictures, it's sort of a foregone conclusion you're going to do real well if you show up in shape.
That's very true. That's very true. It's almost expected.
Yeah. I didn't begrudge him for any of that. I mean, it just made me train harder. But, you know, early on, I beat him in the contest, like in 69, I beat him there. 70, beat him there. I don't know if he competed in 70. I don't think he did in NABA. 72, I think I placed ahead of him then too. Then 74 in the Olympia that year was in Madison Square Garden. There was only 4 guys in it: Arnold and Lou Ferrigno in the tall class, and me and Colombo in the shorter class. And he beat me there. Of course, I didn't think he should. I was sort of surprised that he did. He resorted to some dirty tricks. When my posing music was being played on my record, he was up in the control booth and he skipped the needle on the record. So he went, shh. I said, "Oh, fuck, Frank. What else you gonna do? What else you gonna do?"
That's crazy. I never heard of that before. That's great.
It's not widely known.
No. Yeah.
I can't talk too badly about him now because he's dead. But you know, he had his share of dirty tricks.
Yeah.
Arnold had his share too. I remember in 75 Olympia, we're in South Africa and we're sitting around the breakfast table. And Lou Ferrigno, Lou's father, Matty, Arnold, and me. And Lou's father, Matty says to Arnold, he says, Arnold, what are you going to do to beat Louis? You know, he's in good shape. You know, what are you going to do to trick him with your tricks? And Arnold said, he said, well, Matty, you know, I would generally, but I don't have to because he's smooth. He's not in shape. He's a month away. And he was telling the truth because he was. And Louis knew it. And he lost the contest right then, right then. So, you know, he would psych people out just by saying what was obvious or what was evident.
Mm. Yeah, there was that, what is it called? I guess psyching out already back then, that mental game was
Yeah,
already
he always
developing.
played it. Always played
Yeah.
it.
Back to Gold's Gym and training. Did you mostly train is similar after you stopped training with Arnold because you started teaching? Did you continue training in the routine that you mentioned earlier, chest and
No,
back, or
no.
did you change that?
I followed a three-way split, but I did back biceps forearms day one, the pulling muscles, legs day two, that was the same, but then chest, shoulder, triceps on day three. I like that better because, you know, when you work the pull it back, you work in biceps and forearms too, and the same with chest, you work in shoulders and triceps. So I like
Yeah.
that system better, and I stuck with that. I stuck with that for a long, long time, except now I don't do that. I train usually either the whole body in one workout or upper body one day and legs the next. I have a really good gym here that's perfect for me. A lot of really good machines, and I like them.
Mm. And with this new system of training, did you then use the same system off season and for competition?
Let's see, off season. Yeah, I stuck with it pretty much. I just did it less frequently. I might do it 3 times a week. But I got into doing it 3 days in a row and resting the fourth day. Doing it 6 days a week was too much. I was getting overtrained doing that. But if I did it 3 days on, one day off, I was strong the whole time. And so
Right.
I grew doing that. And now, I train maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and I sort of do the whole body on machines. I don't do a lot because I really
Mm.
don't have any reason to now. You know, I'm just working to stay the same. You know, I don't care about getting better. I just want to stay the same. So
Yeah.
that's how it goes.
And so for off season versus preparing for competition, if you didn't change your training too much, then was it your diet that changed mainly?
The diet got a lot more stricter before a show. I dropped my carbs down under maybe 80 a day. Then in the off
Right.
season, I upped it. You know, but I never went overboard on it. I always stayed sort of, on an even keel.
Okay.
I ate more food, and I didn't do much. I didn't run in the off season. You know,
Right.
I did ab work and everything, and I tried. Over the holidays, Christmas holidays, a lot of people would bulk up, but I found that if I didn't want to get fat during that time, so I tried to stay on a diet and tried to stay leaner, and
Mhm.
I found that system worked better for me. Then in the springtime, I would work on building my weights up to grow. And then in the summertime, I worked on cutting down on rest periods between sets,
Mhm.
stretching between sets. That's one thing we always did. I sort of got that from Arnold, stretch between sets. Do a set, stretch the body part. I
Right.
still do that. I still do it.
Okay. So you mentioned you dropped your carbs to about 80 grams from
Or
from
even
what
less,
level?
if as low as 40 grams a day.
Right. From what? What would have been your maintenance during, winter, summer? 100, 200?
Not more than my protein intake. My protein intake was about 180 grams a day.
Right.
My
Okay.
carbs were never that high. Might have been as high as 120, 140,
Okay. Okay.
but I've dropped it way down, and it worked. And
Yeah.
then I took a lot of supplements too, a lot of amino acids, liver extract, vitamins and minerals,
Mm.
and that worked too.
Yeah. What about your fat intake? Was that because you had, moderate carbs during off season, would you keep the fat levels moderate, low, high?
Moderately low, but not real low.
Hmm.
I guess it would be about 25 to 30% of my calories came from fats.
Okay.
I didn't use butter or cream, but I did use olive oil on salads.
So did you prescribe then off season, sorry, prior to competition to the high protein, high fat diet that was, what a lot of people did back then, or?
It was never a high fat diet. It was a moderate fat diet.
Okay.
See, the thing I discovered that, and I was eating red meat quite all the time then. And if you're eating red meat, you're getting fat, you're getting a bunch of saturated fat. I wasn't on this chicken and fish diet back then, although I am now more or less, but not then. So and then I had protein drinks too, milk and egg protein and mixed with half and half. So
Right.
the fat intake was up there, but it wasn't too extravagant.
Okay. So you've mentioned that although Weider would offer Arnold and whoever else the supplements, you all took Blair supplements. Do you remember exactly how much of the protein you would have, the liver tablets, etc.? What your typical supplement daily intake was like?
Typically, it was like 30 amino acids a day, about the same with liver extract.
Wow.
And I would just take it throughout the day. But in 1976, I went as high as I was taking up to 700 capsules a day the last month. But I got in incredible shape doing that. I was taking 100 amino acids, 100 liver extract, oils too, like lecithin, and he had a product called Soybro, which was a mixture of different oils.
Yeah.
And I really went all out with that, and I've got in incredible shape doing that.
Having up to 700 capsules a day of liver protein, you mentioned the different oils, amino acids. That is on top of food?
Yeah. I had like 7 small meals a day. And the food was like a matrix to hold the capsules together. You can't just take the capsules, it'll irritate your stomach. So you have to have a matrix to hold them together. Protein and some carbohydrate, and that's how I did it. Worked.
What do you mean by a matrix? Would you like swallow it with the food?
I would swallow the capsules and have a bite of the food.
Wow. That's
That's
really
how you
interesting. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just really interesting to hear this. I hear about, or I read about the different kinds of supplements, but the quantities is something that I don't know about. And so it's just really interesting to learn this.
If you can take that much, you really have to buffer it with food. It'll burn your stomach otherwise.
Yeah. So 700, I mean, we're talking 100 tablets of liver, 100 of the amino, 100 of the oils. What are the other 400? What is it?
Those are the main
Vitamins and
ones. It
minerals?
was amino acids, liver extract, oils, lecithin. It just added up to that, and sometimes I would go over that. But it was at least a couple hundred a day.
So
And
also, I guess,
I got closer to the contest.
so I guess like vitamins as well, minerals and
Yeah, B
HCl
complex,
tablets.
a lot of C,
Yeah.
calcium, magnesium.
Everything. Okay. Gotcha. Wow. Would you say that the reason you guys took so many capsules as well is because they weren't as concentrated as they are now?
No, they were concentrated.
Really?
Maybe more so than what's around now. I wanted to take a lot because I felt, well, this is a superfood, and it worked. I mean, that's how I became known as the chemist, because of doing stuff like that. No, I know nobody else is doing it. I'm sort of an experimental background. I was a chemistry major in college, and so I'm used to experimenting. And so for me, I called it, my body was the living laboratory.
Yeah, absolutely.
The worst that could happen is you could get upset stomach or nausea or diarrhea. But aside from that, that's gonna kill you if you do it the right way. And yeah, you just have to find out the right way to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really interested in this kind of stuff. I also have been speaking to Jim Shiblum, I think his name is, who was the patent owner, or is the current patent owner of Blair's Protein, and he was telling me that Rio Blair was also experimenting with you or with other bodybuilders with high doses of either glutamine or high doses of creatine back then. Would that be accurate?
I never took creatine, but I did take a lot of glutamine. It's sweet in a powder form. I took, like a teaspoon of glutamine is 5 grams. I probably took 10 grams of glutamine a day. I also took a lot of arginine. Then I also took quite a bit of tryptophan at night to sleep.
Right.
And it worked. I mean, all that stuff really worked.
So with the arginine, that would have, for example, spiked up your growth hormone naturally, right?
That was the theory, yeah.
Yeah. I've read papers on it too. Recent papers show that taking about 6 to 10 grams a day can really have an effect on athletes, like a major effect. So
Yeah. I know
wow.
someone that took, this one girl I knew was a female bodybuilder. She was taking 14 grams of arginine a day. She said she really got very muscular doing that.
Wow.
But I think the three main ones are glutamine, arginine, and tryptophan.
Yeah.
For megadosing. Those are the most important ones. Then you just have to take a balanced formula with branched chain aminos and everything else in there, which is what I did.
Yeah.
I still take aminos, but not that much, maybe 9 a day.
Awesome. What kind of effect do you think, like Vince has talked about the liver giving people energy, the trigerm oils being precursors for steroid production in your own body, etc. What effect, did you feel any effect with the specific supplements you were taking, or was it just a combined effect?
It was combined because I took everything. And of course, I felt all that. I had great energy and, got great muscularity from it, and muscular growth and everything else.
It said that with Rio Blair's protein, for example, that Larry Scott had years of trouble gaining weight until he started on Rio Blair's. Would you say that Rio Blair's had that effect of creating a lot of mass, a lot of hypertrophy? Did you feel that? Did you see that as well in your own physique?
Well, I got great workouts. I mean, Arnold took it too. I used to go over his place and use he had a whole cupboard full of Rio Blair products. And one of the things was have a Blair's protein drink before the workout. He'd have breakfast, and then a couple hours later, he'd have a protein drink, and then let that settle and go to the gym. Usually 2 protein drinks a day, and I did that too. It really worked. But what I learned is you couldn't get definition taking that stuff. You'll grow. You'll get a good pump, but you won't get that defined. You have to, last month, you have to go off of it.
Right. Yeah, I heard the same thing that you got puffy, you got a bit smooth. Like Don Howarth and I had a talk as well about it, and he said the same thing.
Yeah. Well, it's a milk product. It's whey protein and it's egg protein in there too, but it's a lot of carbs in that as well. Yeah. So it's good for training, but coming out last month, you better cut way down on it. So the idea was to cut down on it and increase amino acid intake and liver extract intake.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Cool. That's great. Thank you. That's great.
Now you know everything. All my
That's great. I always just try and understand the process of how things were done back then. I think things were a lot more organic. Now everything's so specific. Back then there was, you had milk and egg. Now you've got fractions, isolates of whey. You've got casein. You've got all these different, fractions of fractions, and then specific amino acids. And back then it was just so much more, I guess.
We had all that. We had all that stuff in the protein we took, and amino acids too. So we had it. We used a lot of it. And I did, and it worked.
Yeah. Definitely. Now moving away from supplements, so how many times a day would you hit the beach to tan, and what other things would you do to prepare for the competition to get that nice tan?
Oh, just once a day. couple hours.
Yeah.
The thing was to build up a tan gradually. You can't get it all at once.
Hmm.
I really never used any kind of skin coloring either.
Right.
I never bothered with that. I always had a good natural tan.
Right.
And then in '79 was my last year of probably my best shape ever. I had a house in Palm Springs that I used to go over there. We lived in Santa Monica. I used to go over there a lot to get a tan.
Hmm.
The beach was usually socked in a lot in summer. You wouldn't see any sun sometimes till 2 in the afternoon. So I'd get a real dark tan in Palm Springs, and I would lay on a raft in my pool like 2 hours at a time, and I got really dark.
Nice. I heard of stories of people using oils back then, but with a bit of iodine. Did you ever do that for yourself or never?
No, it was iodine and baby oil was the trend.
That's it.
I experimented with it, but your hands got all messed up. You palms your hands were tanner than your body. It didn't look good.
Right. Okay.
There was a product that we used sparingly called Helena Rubenstein Tan in a Minute. It was dark like a makeup. It was a liquid and you rubbed it on. But the thing about it, I found out the best way to use that was to put it between body parts, like under your pecs, down your abs, to outline the separation. If you put it on everywhere and did it thick, it didn't reflect light when you're on stage. It absorbed light. So these are all things that I learned.
Awesome. That's really cool. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, now moving to the universes. Well, we still got a little bit of time. You won the amateur NABBA Mr. Universe in 1970 and mentioned that Arnold was like a coach to you. Can
Yeah.
you so did you train with Arnold during then, or was that alone?
We trained a lot together that year.
Okay.
And I went there with my wife, and she entered Miss Universe Bikini. We all ended up winning. I won amateur, Arnold won pro, and Christine won Miss Universe Bikini.
Mm-hmm.
She was
Yeah,
a
I've seen
great kid.
photos. I've
Yeah,
seen the photos on that.
sitting on her shoulders.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's awesome photo. How did how was your training like? Was it what you mentioned before that you did the push, pull, and leg stay, or was it back to the original Golds training?
I think it was mainly pull, legs, push,
Okay.
and then take the fourth day off. I did
Right.
most of my workouts like that.
Okay.
I've published material on that, and some of it's available on ebooks. And one's called The Workouts. It's 190 workouts that I actually did, and I put them all in a book. And it's, like I said, available in ebook. We published it in hard copy originally, and
Awesome.
because I wrote everything down. I have tons of journals for my workouts. I wrote all my stuff down that I did.
Do you ever plan to release all your journals, like as books?
Well, I did. There was the one journal, that was it. Basically, I summarized it from several years, put them
Right.
all together. Pre-contest stuff, I put in, sort of ascending order of, harder and harder.
Okay.
And it was first called Mind, Body, Spirit, Personal Training, Body, Mind, and Spirit Personal Training Diaries.
Yeah.
It was a black covered book, and we sold a ton of those,
Mm-hmm.
And then I republished it in a different format with more photos. I called it The Workouts, same book,
Right. Okay.
just more photos. And that's still around. I don't sell that book anymore. I came out with other stuff. I had 3 books after that I had one book after that. It was 1990 when I was 50, called Fabulously Fit Forever. It was more of a general book. And then after that, I had I published one called High Def Body.
Yeah.
Then Symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
And then Let's Grow. Those
Yeah,
3
yeah.
books. Then I combined those 4 books plus one called The Mind in Bodybuilding into the Zane Bodybuilding Manual, which is what we sell now.
Yeah.
It's 436 pages, pretty much everything I know about bodybuilding, and it's real complete textbook. I think it'll be great for any kind of college course in bodybuilding.
Mm.
I don't think anybody's ever used it, but I think it'd be good for that. And then I have workbooks too, like 91 Day Wonder Body. It's
Mm.
3 months of exactly, they'll work out exactly what to do and eat for 3 months, including photo sessions, the poses. Then I have 91 Day Wonder Abs, just abs for 3 months. And what else? Oh, I published an extension of that called Get Finished. It picks
Yeah.
up where 91 Day Wonder Body leaves off, and it goes into the three-way split, 3 days on, 1 day off, pulling
Mhm.
muscles, legs, pushing muscles, rest
Right.
for 3 months like that. That's what I have now, plus the
Yeah.
91 Day Wonder Body.
And that's basically what you use to prepare for the
Yeah,
universes, etc. Right.
right.
Awesome.
It's advanced training.
Yeah.
There's no secret. I
With
mean, it's just a lot of work, hard
yeah.
work.
You mentioned that Arnold was like a coach for the 1970 universe. In what capacity would you say that Arnold served as a coach for you in preparation for the 70 universe?
We used to have posing clinics at his apartment. Go over there and we'd pose and critique each other, which helped
Ah.
a lot. Then I remember I gave an exhibition, we all did, in Pennsylvania before the Olympia one year. It was like a month before, and Arnold critiqued me, and he told me every little thing that I did that I could have done better, like moving my feet and all that stuff, just like stuff you really need to know. And in London in 1970, basically, he told me, my vacuum was like my best pose, but I didn't know it at the time. And so I did it right in the middle of my routine. And he said, that's your best pose, you should do it last. So it's things like that.
Right.
You always want to finish with your best pose.
Absolutely.
Start with your best pose. If you have your best poses, start with your best pose, because in psychology it's called the recency effect. You see that first, you repeat it it goes around in your mind over and over again, because it's strong and it's really good. It's right up front. Then your last pose, it's memorable. It's what you leave people with, and then that goes round and around. So, it's psychological.
You mentioned about the famous vacuum pose. I think one of the greatest ones was from the 1979 Olympia. Were you already conscious when Arnold told you about the vacuum pose? Were you already conscious about it, or were you practicing it for a long time, or did you, after knowing that, really start focusing more on it?
I didn't realize it so much. I knew it was a good pose, but I did it even more, and especially the exercise that builds the serratus. That's what makes that pose. That's why anybody that does that anymore doesn't really have it. Maybe Bill Pearl had it, because he's a good serratus, and it all had to do with dumbbell pullover lying across the bench. I did a lot of that, and my serratus just jutted out.
Would you do that different to a breathing pullover? Because a breathing pullover, you use a light dumbbell. So would you actually
I never
use
bothered
them?
with light pullovers. I was breathing anyway, inhale on the way down and exhale as you come up. So it wasn't like I wasn't breathing. I was breathing, inhale, exhaling on every rep.
Yeah. So you used weight to build the serratus up.
Yeah, I would go like 90, 100, 110,
Right.
120 pound dumbbell.
Right. Okay. That's a good tip. Would you say then that Arnold is partly responsible for helping you point out how good your vacuum pose was?
Yeah, he gave me feedback that was appreciated. You need to have feedback, and to get feedback who some knows what they're doing is essential.
Yeah.
It's sort of like having a coach. And there weren't many people around that would be your coach, because they don't know as much as you did anyway. They didn't have the experience, so it was good that he was around and I had the experience.
Mm. On the vacuum pose, how did you begin to train for the vacuum? Did you do it like on the floor first, like some people say, or did you go straight into seated or standing and doing the
Well,
vacuum?
to learn it first, I did it inverted on a downwards. Like I had a table it's an inversion table, about 45 degrees down. And that's very easy to do a vacuum in that.
Uh-huh.
So I'd start with that, and then I would do it flat lying on the floor. Then I would do it bent over, standing bent over with my hands on my knees. And then I would do it with my arms behind my head. It was like 4 stages.
Right.
And you know, the
Awesome.
more you do it, the more you practice it, the longer you hold it, the better you get at it. The secret is when you're posing, make it look like you're a real pro at it. You know, you're not shaking or breathing hard or looking around. Just, you know, you're into what you're doing and you're accomplished at it. And you've done posing long enough before your competition to be really good at it. I would start a month before at least. Then, of course, over the years, I had done it pretty much. So I didn't have to do it as that much, usually the last 2, 3 weeks.
How many times a day during your bodybuilding career would you do the vacuum pose, and for how long?
It varied. I don't recall. I would do it more before before competition. And the other thing I did a lot of before the show was take photos.
Yeah.
You know, it was with Joe Weider originally. Basically, the best thing you could do is before your contest, have a couple photo sessions with Joe Weider, you know, with the photographers, because that went into magazines. And he'd be there telling you all these little things about what to do, tense this, tense that, lock the back leg, you know, all these things.
Mm.
And then I got into taking them with my wife. And she's an excellent photographer. We've gone every weekend to take photos. And I got thousands of images. And that's how I learned what I look like. And I realized that not many other people, nobody else was really doing that. You know, if you're just looking in the mirror, you're not seeing the real thing. You're seeing your image backwards. And that's not what you look like. So if you want to see what you look like, look at yourself in a photo. That's what you look like.
Mm.
So I relied on photos, nothing else toward the end. I just took the photos, looked at them, and pulled out the good ones, and you know, looked at the bad ones, see what I was doing wrong, and destroyed the bad ones. So that was the process.
Yeah. Did you also practice yoga early on? Because I know you practiced yoga later on, definitely, but was that something that you did early on, and did that help you with the vacuum as well?
Not really. I did a little bit. I did some yoga like it when I was like 14, 15, just because it was new and I liked doing it. But what I got out of that was the breathing exercises.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And then the vacuum, of course. The vacuum is really a yoga pose.
Yes, it is. Exactly.
So
I mean,
the thing I got out of it is stretching.
Mhm.
Instead of doing yoga and sitting posture. I know I actually went to yoga classes and everything, even as I got older. And basically, it was the stretching that I accomplished, and then the meditation aspect. I really got into meditation. I still do it. It was very helpful for me, you know, maintaining calmness. Uh, I started saying a mantra in 1976, and I vowed to say it a million times a year. If you break that down, it's like 3,000 times a day. But the thing is, when you're saying that, your mind's not wandering, you're not worrying, you're focused.
Mhm.
And so I still do that. Every day I do it.
Excellent. All right. Yeah, I mean, I've got a few more questions, but I think time is up, so it's up to you if you want to continue.
I'll answer a few more.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just briefly then on the last two universes. So you trained in South Africa for the 71 universe. You did exhibitions there. You mentioned that in your book that you trained up to 6 to 8 hours a day. So can you detail how you split your training up back then to train that long?
You know, I don't think it was that long. It was about 5 hours. I would go to the gym around 1 o'clock and then just train up until about 5 or 6. Do a lot of sets, work up and weight. Sometimes I go back at night after that. But I had nothing else to do. You know, there was nothing to do there. Lay in the sun, get sun. I was there in the winter too, so it wasn't really powerful sun. And so, you know, I would eat and eat well, keep a tan, and then go to the gym and work out, do a lot of sets. Train quite heavy too. I remember I did 5 reps with 325 in the bench. And I don't think I squatted too much. I did a lot of leg extension, leg curl, and stuff like that. Not too much squatting. But I trained really hard.
And what was it still your pull, legs, push routine that you were doing in 72? 71, sorry.
I don't recall really. I sort of got more into that after that phase. That was 71. I think I sort of got into that after I came back from South Africa. I don't remember what I did, but it was a lot.
Yeah. Was your off season and I guess pre-comp diet and supplement routine very similar to what you've already talked to me about? Blair's protein, all the vitamins and minerals back then in 71 as well, or?
Yeah. I remember I went to South Africa. I had a suitcase full of pills, the whole suitcase, because it was my summer. It was my supply for the summer.
Yeah.
And I remember going through customs guy says, "What's all this?" I said, "That's my food supplement menu for I'm gonna be here 3 months for the whole 3 months." And then I practically had to give a seminar telling what each one was for. I got by.
Yeah, I asked because in 71, like the photos, you look really full. You look really your muscles are really full, the bellies are really full. So I'm just trying to find out if there's much differences between 71 and 70. That's why I'm asking. These questions might seem
continued heavy training.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the main thing.
You also kind of mentioned earlier that Bill Pearl was there. You won the short class, right? Whilst Pearl, Reg Park, and Sergio were
Dave Draper too.
And Draper, sorry, yeah, we're all battling the tall class, right?
Uh-huh.
And can you describe what went on that night, especially in the tall class? Because there's a lot of stories. Some people say Bill should have won. Some people say Sergio should have won. So, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think Bill played the complete angle. He played the social angle too. The night before the show at the Royal Hotel, he was down at the bar drinking beer with the judges. He played all the angles. Of course, your training is done all before that. So what you do the night before, especially drinking beer, is not going to matter too much. In the words of Arnold, when I get on the plane to go to the contest, I'm already on vacation. So all the work is done prior to that. And then you really don't have to do much of anything the last week except pose a lot if you do that. Because posing is what brings out all the definition.
Yeah.
But I remember in the prejudging, I walked away with the short class because Tony Emmett was in it, and it wasn't anything special in those days. So I won that, and then I'm sitting right in front, right by the judges up front, and there's the lineup. There's Bill Pearl on the end. There's Sergio, there's Reg Park, and Dave Draper, and then the other guys. And so they're standing there, and it's standing from the front. Then it's quarter turn to the right, show their right side. Then it's quarter turn to the right, show their back. And then it's another quarter turn to the right, show the left side. And everybody did that except Bill. He would not do quarter turn to the right. Instead, he did quarter turn to the left. And the judge said to him, so he ends up looking at everybody. He's facing everybody because they did the quarter turn to the right. He came back and did quarter turn to the left. So he didn't show the one side at all. And one judge said to him, Bill, quarter turn to the right, not the left. And Bill just stood there, didn't change it. Then he said, come on, Bill, quarter turn to the right like everybody else. And Bill looks at him, he says, don't be difficult. Just like that. And that's where I learned audacity. If you get away with that, you're going to win. So it's sort of a foregone conclusion he was going to win.
Yeah. And so is that what you learned from Bill Pearl? Like, what would you say that you learned from him in your bodybuilding career? That's kind of like my last question.
Well, he was a nice guy in a way. We went, I don't know what year it was, the late 70s. We went to his gym in Pasadena, Christine and myself, to see what it was like to run a gym because we were thinking about that. And he showed me everything. You know, how he kept his books and everything else and what to do. He says, suppose you open up your gym at 7 every morning and there's guys waiting there. And then they ask you, they're waiting there for a long time to get in because they want to go to work. So you open at 6. He says, once you do that, you'll always have to be there early. He says, don't do it. Things like that. You know, he's very experienced with running gyms.
Right.
So he had a lot of knowledge. He had a lot of experience, you know, and he's still at it. He's 90 years old now, still working out.
Mm. You never posed down against Bill in the 71 universe, right?
No, I was ready, but they never called it. You know, I said it. I said, isn't the procedure that the winner of each class poses down? They said, we forgot. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
My God.
I was ready. I was all psyched up, ready to go. You know, it never happened.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's sad, but I mean, that's history now. So yeah.
Yeah. They're all lessons, you know. I mean, I wrote a bunch of songs. I wrote one about Bill Pearl, entitled Bill Pearl. It goes like this, if I can remember. London, Mr. Universe, 1971. There stood Bill Pearl at age 41. Bill Pearl, bodybuilding's Duke of Earl. Behavior king, lats like wings. Calves and thighs maximized to an astonishing size. Deep dark tan, weighed 238. Posing supreme. He looked really, really great. Bill Pearl.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That just about sums it up. I forgot what I was going to just ask. I mean, yeah, I don't know now.
Maybe it will come to you in the next few minutes.
Yeah, hopefully. We're just talking about Bill Pearl and yourself. Well, do you think you could have beaten Bill Pearl that night?
You know, I don't know, probably not. Because, you know, he had a reputation there and he was in shape. He wasn't real cut up like I was, but, you know, it depends on who the judges are.
Yeah.
The judges loved him. He played all the angles. So I don't think I could have beat him. You know that Arnold never competed against him.
Yeah, I know.
Those years, I mean, I remember 1971, I came back from South Africa and I did a posing exhibition in Ireland with Arnold. And he was huge. And we were talking about going, Bill Pearl, they wanted Bill Pearl to go in the Olympia that year, but and Arnold wouldn't go to compete against him in the universe either. So that was that. They knew better. Because after a while, it's a matter of opinion. Somebody gets as good as they can get, you know, it's a matter of opinion who the best is. It's, you know, I sort of figured it out, is what the judges look for when they look at bodies on stage. They say to themselves, who would I like to look like? And they tend to vote their type. So if you have a lot of Bill Pearl fans as judges, guess what? You know?
Yes, that's very true. I remember now. You're right. It came to me. That I mean, your song said a lot about his behavior, about basically kind of like acting like a champion. Would you say, having learned that attitude and that behavioral characteristic of Bill Pearl, would you say you applied that as well in your own career, especially during the Olympias?
Sure. I remember in 70 or 71 when he was competing, He had a trailer in back of the hall. He didn't see anybody. He was there by himself pumping up. He didn't talk to anybody, and he was fully dressed, and he just ignored everybody else. And that's what I ended up doing too.
Right.
Just ignore it. I never even looked at anybody. I just looked at judges, and then my wife in the audience who was taking photos. But I ignored the competition. They hated me for that, I think.
I'm sure they did.
I wasn't there to be buddies with them, I mean, I was there to win the title.
Absolutely.
Focus on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if you want to continue, but yeah, it's up to you.
One thing about Bill, he never voted for me in competition. He was a judge at 79 Olympia, and I won. And he had me in third place. So after the show, I went up to him. I said, "Hey, Bill, I won the title. I got more first places than anybody else, and you put me third." And he says, "Where I sat, you were third. You're sitting way out on the end." And so for me, all you could see is elbows and armpits. It's not my best angle side. My best angle is straight on front, straight on back. And so I couldn't do the whole thing for him. You have to sort of go back and forth. And so to him, I didn't look the best.
And that was for which competition, sorry?
That was the 79 Olympia, which I won.
79, right, okay.
Then I remember he was a judge at 82 Olympia in London. I got second in that, and Chris Dickerson won. I was thinking, Dickerson, come on. He's missing a lot of, no abs, not much else, no biceps. And I have the complete package. But, he trained at Bill Pearl's. Now, one thing is, I never went to anybody and said to them, train me, make me great. That's what Chris Dickerson did. He went out to Bill and trained at his gym for like 3 months and got all the tips. And then he goes over there and Bill Pearl's the judge. And so he wins it, Yeah. So I never played that angle. Probably if I did, I would have, maybe won a few extra things. But I couldn't get into it so much. I would sooner take, get advice from people in the gym and people who were competitors than, these experts who were, has-beens who never were, I like to call them. Not like Bill Pearl was a has-been. He was a has-been, but he was. It's not like he never was, he was. But I never went to anybody like that and camped out and, show me this and train me. I always knew what I wanted to do myself. I'm a big believer in self-reliance.
Yeah, well, you did it well.
The best I could.
I do have some final questions on the 72 universe, but we don't have to answer them now. It's up to you.
Well, we're pretty much over on time right now, so let's call it a day.
Cool.
We could do this in the future if you want to put some stuff together at a later date.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because that'll tie into the Olympias, which I want to talk about next.
Okay.
Right. Thank you very much.
Okay, my pleasure. Keep up the good work, Carlos.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Okay, take care.
Bye. Wow, I mean, this interview with Frank was pure nostalgia. It's all about those wonderful golden years of bodybuilding, and from speaking to him, I just learned so much. I do plan to dissect all these interviews and create separate videos elaborating on all that was said by Frank, and I will have to make it into a complete new series of videos exploring the blueprint to Frank Zane. I did feel like just sharing the interview in its raw form for all to enjoy, and to be honest, I will also have to listen to it again and again just to soak up all that wisdom given to us so generously by Frank. So I do hope you have enjoyed watching this video interview with 3-time Mr. Olympia Frank Zane. If you have enjoyed the video, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so yet, and please leave me your comments. If you would like to support this channel, please donate via PayPal, become a patron, and visit my website for merchandise and out-of-print books and courses on old school bodybuilding. That's it from me. This is the Golden Era Bookworm saying bye for now. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Frank Zane's bodybuilding training methods and nutritional advice, Frank has an excellent website, www.frankzane.com, where you will find books, magazines, exercise DVDs, autographed photos, and even the opportunity to consult with Frank on all things bodybuilding. So check out his website, www.frankzane.com. Become a patron at www.patreon.com/Golden Era Bookworm for hard to find books, scans of rare photos, and articles on the golden era of bodybuilding. To support your favorite YouTube channel, please visit teespring.com/stores/Golden Era Bookworm for merchandise including t-shirts, hoodies, face masks, phone cases, and much, much more. Once again at teespring.com/stores/Golden Era Bookworm. To take full advantage of my collaboration with Old School Labs, please visit their website and choose from their marvelous range of supplements using my code BOOKWORM12. And for an entertaining look at the history of bodybuilding's supplement industry, I would highly recommend watching Subs the Movie, which I have collaborated in, available at Amazon Prime and Vimeo.